Hi guys, I'm Impatient from the Guild Valiant on Blackhand US, and I'm here today to talk about the Demonology spec for Warlocks to help out those that are new to the spec, maybe new to the class. Demonology, just within the past 3 or 4 weeks, has gotten a buff, so a lot of people have been swapping to it. Might be some people with some questions, and I'm here to hopefully help those out. Just to give a disclaimer, I am just part of a 2 of 7 Mythic Guild. We only raid 3 nights a week. On my Warcraft logs, I'm only within about 65 to 90% on the percentile rankings for Warlocks, on Demonology Warlocks on a lot of fights. So I'm not the end-all be-all. But I definitely hope that I have some information that'll help you out, help you enjoy the spec, and get some good damage out of the spec. We are a week before Blackrock Foundry, so we're pre-6.1. So anything in this video could be changed with a hot fix or with any changes to 6.1. But I do want to go ahead with it since Blackrock Foundry is about to release, and we're about to get our tier gear in the next set of raids. And so I wanted to go ahead and put out this video. Would be remiss if I didn't go ahead and thank a couple people. First, I want to thank Wads for a great demonology guide over at mmochampion.com's forums. Without that, I would definitely be lost myself. He makes a great guide. There's also a lot of good discussion over there, so definitely go check those guys out. They have a lot of good information. Also, my weak aura here that you see at the bottom of my character's feet, this is a cast bar, fury bar weak aura that made, and he has made everything much easier with this weak aura. And that's also at MMO Champion. You can find that in the weak auras thread there. Definitely suggest checking that out. And definitely thank my Guild Valiant for allowing me to raid with them, have fun with them each week as we go in and try to kill some mythic bosses. Alright, we'll start out our guide with talents and go through these fairly quickly. First row, Soul Leech is going to be your main thing. I really don't see a purpose for Dark Regeneration. Definitely not Harvest Life. Soul Leech just gives you a passive shield as you deal damage. It doesn't based off Demon Bolt, which would be awesome if it was. Be a little bit overpowered. But it does off of your Shadow Bolt, your Soulfire, your Touch of Chaos. And that grants you a shield. Definitely absorbs a lot of damage. It's a lot of healing that's not needed because of this shield. It's really high up on our healing charts. Level 30 talents is going to be Shadow Fury. I don't really see a place for Mortal Coil, especially since they've taken out it not healing on immune targets, so you can't heal yourself off bosses anymore. Howl Terror might be, but I still don't see it. I mean personally, I enjoy the 3-second on-demand stun, especially for like fights with Korra, where they're trying to corral them into the suppression fields. And just allows me to have that on-demand 3-second stun, especially if something's chasing me, stun it, get away. Great all-around spell. Level 45, we do have a choice here between Soul Link and Sacrificial Pact. We were doing Heroic Butcher last night, so that's why I have Sacrificial Pact chosen, excuse me. And basically the choice becomes whether or not you know there's going to be damage coming, or whether or not you know don't know and you just want passive mitigation throughout the entire fight. If you need the passive mitigation, Soul Link is great. 20% all damage is split between you and your demon. And 3% of the damage you deal heals you and your demon. Really good. The only time it becomes negative is on fights where you take a lot of spike damage. It can kill your pet if you're not careful, so you definitely want to keep an eye on that if you're using Soul Link. Sacrificial Pact is really good if you're going to be doing a fight like Butcher, where I'm one of the ones that's in the bait group a lot of times, and whenever he charges out Taurus, I throw Sacrificial Pact up before he comes at us. It mitigates a lot of the damage, and then he goes back and I continue on, usually up for every one of those. So pretty much you need to decide whether you want the passive mitigation of Soul Link or that active, you know it's going to come in a minute, you know you want to get that damage mitigated from Sacrificial Pact. Level 60 talents, definitely I think Burning Rush is really the only thing that we really need in raiding. I think the health costs for the others are just a little too high for what they do. Blood Horror to me just really doesn't have a place. These are mostly PvP talents in my opinion. Burning Rush, a thing about Burning Rush is that it can be mitigated by Unending Resolve as it does physical damage, so you can mitigate this damage. Level 75 and on, we get to our damage dealing talents. At level 75, everyone are based on our pet. Grimoire Supremacy is the one I use. I like the passive ability power of it. Passive power of it. And I just think it's a good all-around middle ground Grimoire for your pet. It just basically increases your pet's damage. If you're new to the spec, especially if you're new to the class, Supremacy is where I'd start. It doesn't require anything other than just having your pet going inactive. It also increases your Terror Guard, which is our 10-minute cooldown, and increases its damage by 20% as well. Grimoire of Service is great for on-demand burst. I don't think of any fights right now that we just need an on-demand burst, but it's good for that. We haven't done Tectus yet in Mythic, but I'll probably use this for Tectus on Mythic for the ad phase. Grimoire Synergy has the highest ability to put out the most damage. However, you have to really work with the procs of it. You have to be able to fit those demon bolts in with that window. I haven't really played a lot with it. Definitely going to probably try to mess around with this a little bit more. But it's definitely a skill talent. You need to be able to use those buffs that come from Synergy correctly in order to get the most out of it. If you don't, it does less than Supremacy. If you do, it does more. So that's how that talent works. Like I said, I choose Grimoire Supremacy, but any of them are viable. Our level 90 talents, I go with Archimonde's Darkness, and I don't think until 6.1 with the buff to go to Kill Jaden's Cunning that we'll really see the capability to use Kill Jaden's Cunning. There's not a lot of fights right now that require you to move for 8 seconds. And then we also have Aspect of the Fox from Hunters. So it's just not worth giving up Archimonde's Darkness. Manoros Fury, to me, is just not that good right now in raiding. There's not a lot of times we can be up in melee range for our Immolation or Hellfire to really be able to do a lot of damage. Once this gets buffed in 6.1, it'll go from a 1-minute cooldown to a 35-second cooldown. If you have to move during a Demon Bolt cycle, it might be useful there. Otherwise, I still think we're going to stick with Archimonde's Darkness. The way that Archimonde's Darkness works is that you get a charge, 2 charges of it. The time you use it the first time, another charge starts building. The time you use it the second time, if that first charge is not done building back up, it will not start a second charge. So it only charges up 1 at a time to a maximum of 2 charges. Excuse me. Then we go to our level 100 talents. Our level 100 talents are Demon Bolt and Cataclysm. These are going to be the 2 that we're going to use. Demonic Servitude, we give up a demon for it. The damage it comes from is just not good enough to give up our Fel Guards or Wrath Guards. It's not good enough for that. Demon Bolt is our single target spec. I also use this a lot of times when there's 2 targets, unless there's a lot of movement involved. Demon Bolt is basically you build up Fury, you dump your Fury. It turns Metamorphosis into a cooldown more than it's a form that you swap in and out of. A lot of people like it. A lot of people don't like it. I personally like it because when I played Demonology a lot was when Kata was there, and we used to do, it was a cooldown, and so it feels a little bit better to me than the mop iteration of Demonology. But there are people that don't like it because they like being in demo and having that as an extra form. But the way this works, like I said, is you build up Fury, you dump your Fury. Cataclysm is a ground targeted AoE spell that will apply a dot, and the dot changes based on the form we're in. So if we're in caster form, it applies Corruption. If we're in Metamorphosis form, it applies Doom. Usually always used in Metamorphosis form. You use it on fights that have 2 or more enemies. It allows you to have more freedom to use your Fury, so it's definitely a more mobile talent to use because you don't have to stockpile your Fury to use on Demon Bolt. It makes you less of a turret. I use this on fights you use it on Tectus because, of course, the big AoE phase. I sometimes use it on Bracken Spore depending upon the job that I'm given. I use it on Twins. I use both Demon Bolt and Cataclysm on Twins based on how I feel about the fight. But both of them are definitely viable. Demon Bolt is the highest single target talent that we have for the Warlock spec right now. And Cataclysm is definitely a really good talent as well. Like I said, these are going to be your 2 talents that you're going to be majorly using. Going on to Glyphs. The glyphs I like to use are Glyph of Siphon Life. I just giving you that that corruption, healing you. It's just a little passive damage. It's not a whole lot of passive damage, passive healing, excuse me, but it adds up. I also use Glyph of Hellstone. This allows, basically, it's healing over 10 seconds instead of that immediately healing, but it does 100% more healing. So like as of right now, it does 103,000 health, which is more than a health tonic, which to me is just more important. Your third glyph spot's going to change based on your spec. If you're Demon Bolt, you're going to use Glyph of Dark Soul. What this does is it shortens the duration and the cooldown by 50%. So your Dark Soul lasts 10 seconds, and it only has a 1 minute cooldown. This works well because Demon Bolt, by natural proxy, has a 40-second cooldown, though that is reduced by haste. And I said it's a cooldown. It's actually a debuff time, and but the length of the debuff is changed based on your haste. Mine right now usually lasts somewhere between 30 and 35 seconds on average, depending upon whether or not Shards is procced or I've used it. Or on Bloodlust phases, I've had it get down as low as 22 seconds. So that will change. That's something to be noticed of. However, like I said, for most of your rotation, it's going to be in that good 30 to 40 second range. So this works well with Dark Soul because for the most part, we will have a Dark Soul available with Demon Bolt every single time we go to use it. So pretty much, like with the Demon Bolt play spec of play, you build up your Fury, you hit Dark Soul, you burn all your Fury, and then go back into your rotation. So it's really good there. You can change this out if you use Kata. You can change this out. Some good ones are Glyph of Soulstone. Definitely if you're one that has to use Soulstone in a fight. We have a lot of druids, so we don't usually need to use it. But Soulstone brings it back up to 100% health. That's a good talent. I mean, good glyph. Another one is Imp Swarm. Imp Swarm's an overall DPS loss, and we don't have it, but it's a burst glyph. It gives us more burst at the beginning of the fight, and it's more burst to your glyph. If there are fights in Blackrock Foundry that require that burst, then this can be something that's used. Otherwise, it's just more of an optional talent, optional glyph on how you want to use it. Sometimes I use Demonic Circle. I use this sometimes on Butcher whenever to basically will throw down a portal, get knocked back, and then come right back to the portal. And during his frenzy phase, he comes a lot quicker, and this just makes sure that it's up every single time. If you have to move to your Demonic Circle a lot, and it's below 30 seconds, or it's quicker than 30 seconds before you have to use it again, this will be a glyph you can use. Our stats, the major stats right now, of course, is Mastery. Our Mastery has two parts. It increases all of our damage done by us and our Demon Servants by a certain percentage. And then it also increases the damage of our Touch of Chaos, Chaos Wave, Doom, Immolation Aura, Demon Bolt, Soulfire, and Metamorphosis by usually double that percentage. And this, just recently, we just got a buff to our Mastery. This is honestly what makes our class work with Demon Bolt, is simply because of the fact we hit our Dark Soul, it gives us that big Mastery buff, and then we burn it all on Demon Bolt, get all that extra percentage damage, and then go back to our rotation. So Mastery is our definite #1 stat. After that is Haste. Haste not only increases our casting speed, but it also decreases the debuff time of Demon Bolt, allowing us to get more Demon Bolts out during a fight. More Demon Bolts, more damage, all good. After that, Crit and Multi-Strike are very close with one another. I kind of try to keep them even. If you sim yourself on Simulation Craft, a lot of times those two will swap places based on how much Crit or Multi-Strike you have on your gear. So whether or not Crit or Multi-Strike is better for you is going to be very much based on your gear. Though the general consensus tends to be that Crit and Multi-Strike are equal to one another. Multi-Strike may be coming out a little bit ahead otherwise. Then, of course, you get down to our least stat, which is Versatility. You really don't want versatility on your gear, but of course a lot of versatility comes on gear, like our eye level 690 rings. So sometimes you just can't get past that. But that's our stats. We go mastery, haste, crit is equal to multi-strike based on your gear, and then versatility. All right, let's get into how you play this bad boy. All right, so pretty much the main way that you play Demonology is that you have, I like to separate into two things. You have your opener, and then you have your standard rotation. All right, so if you're playing Demon Bolt, Demon Bolt's opener is very simple. What you want to do is you want to get in range for your Soulfire. And let me go ahead and summon a pet here. And what you'll do is you will cast a Soulfire and then send in your pet. You'll use your Terror Guard. You will use Hand of Gul'dan, Corruption, Shadow Bolt, cast another Hand of Gul'dan, Metamorphosis, Dark Soul with your trinkets and everything, Doom, Demon Bolt, and then I usually swap out a meta. I definitely have more Fury here because my pet's been whacking on it, but that's pretty much your opener. You start out pre-pot, throw a Soulfire, Terror Guard, Hog, Corruption, Shadow Bolt, Hog 2, Metamorphosis, Dark Soul, and then Doom, and then 2 Demon Bolts. I then immediately swap out of meta and go into my rotation. That's our rotation, and basically at the opener. From there on, you're going through cycles of building Fury and spending Fury. The way that this works is the way I try to do it is I try to get as close to 850, 880 Fury as I can before my Demon Bolt cooldown or debuff expires, because that'll allow me to use 4 Demon Bolts and also put up Doom before I exit Metamorphosis. So even if I'm at, like, say if the Demon Bolt cooldown comes off and I'm at 780 Fury, I will cast an extra 2 or 3 casts to get to that point to where I can always refresh Doom in demon form. If you don't get to that point, say if you can only cast 3, that's fine. Cast 3, use Doom. I just always suggest putting Doom up before you go back in your caster form. When you're in caster form, anytime you get a Molten Core proc, which I'll go ahead and use some Hand of Gul'dans here to see if I can get one to proc. There we go. Anytime you get a Molten Core proc, you want to be using Soulfire. Now, Soulfire requires a lot of mana, and because of this, you're going to be life tapping a lot. So you definitely want to keep an eye on your mana. Make sure that this is probably the only negative thing to me about the Demon Bolt spec is that you need to be watching your mana management. You don't want to run out of mana to where you can't cast spells, but you also don't want to life tap yourself to death. So you definitely want to make sure that you're watching that. But it's Soulfire. You want to make sure that your Corruption is up at all times. And then you want to weave Hog in, Hand of Gul'dan in, and then finally your filler is Shadow Bolt. And this is what I mean by weaving your Hand of Gul'dan. What you want to do is I'm going to go ahead and just use this. And as you see here, we have a timer that goes from 6 seconds is how long your one charge of Hand of Gul'dan lasts. Last expansion in MOP, we had Pandemic. Now that's been lowered a little bit and given to everybody. So if you cast another dot before that dot ends, it extends that duration up to the maximum amount, which for Hand of Gul'dan is 8 seconds. And it basically just makes it longer, and those ticks go on to the end of it. The thing about Hand of Gul'dan is Hand of Gul'dan has the capability to stack twice. So what you'll do is you'll cast a Hand of Gul'dan. You'll wait until you get to about 4 seconds. You'll cast it again so it lands around 3, and then it will go up to 8 seconds, giving you 2 stacks of Hand of Gul'dan for 8 seconds. That's what you want to do. You never want to cast just one. You want to make sure that you have both up. So like if you're going through our rotation, we see, okay, Hand of Gul'dan's coming up in 5, 4, 3. I usually cast one, usually cast a filler, wait, as soon as it comes up, cast again, trying to get as close to 8 seconds of a 2 stack of Hand of Gul'dan as possible. This is the most damage, generates the most fury, and it's really important. That's probably the most important part of being in caster form and Demon Bolt spec, is that using Hand of Gul'dan correctly. So one more time, just so we get it. Usually for the middle fight that's coming up, we cast it, we wait till it's about 4.5 seconds, cast again, it lands, and we go to 8.3 there. So about 8.5 is about the maximum there that you can get on a Hand of Gul'dan. So you want to make sure you're doing that. You're basically just going to be building fury up. So we'll go through a standard. We'll throw our pet in there, make him use Rastorm. So we have a Soulfire proc. Use Soulfire. Just keep casting Shadow Bolts. See here, okay, our Hand of Gul'dan's about to come up. It's 3 seconds. Cast Hand of Gul'dan. Shadow Bolt. Cast Hand of Gul'dan again. I'm bad because I let Corruption up. Go up. Soulfire procs. Alright, then we are here, and we've got our energy. Once we get to this point in our rotation outside of our opener, we hit Metamorphosis and Dark Soul, and then 4 Demon Bolts. Reapply Doom, and then back out of the rotation. And then right back in to generating Fury again. That's the entire Demon Bolt rotation. And it's honestly more of a rotation than a stat priority, to my feeling, just because it just kind of goes in cycles. You see, we're already down to 40% mana, had the life tap up, and that's just the way this goes. You make sure that you're always using Rastorm, make sure that Corruption stays up on the target, make sure that Doom stays up the target, make sure you use Hand of Gul'dan correctly, and then building up Fury to burn on Demon Bolt. That's the entire rotation. Very, very simple. The hardest part is really honestly just getting a feel for when to cast your Hand of Gul'dan. Getting a feel for, like if you're up here and say the Demon Bolt cooldown is still going, you're about 600-700, whether or not you need to just go ahead and spend on 3 Demon Bolts instead of 4 Demon Bolts, based on how well you think that, like as an example, if I'm here and I'm at 641, I know that it's going to take me at least 4 or 5 more casts to get to 800. So I will go ahead and burn my 3 Demon Bolts to get that cooldown going, the debuff going again, instead of spending another 6-7 casts just trying to get over 800. Now, a lot of times, especially as your haste gets up, you will find that you're able to build up right around. I'm usually able to get within about 750, 780 a lot of times. Before my debuff cooldown comes off, so I can take those extra casts, but you have to make that decision. Also, you never want to cast Demon Bolt without a Dark Soul charge up. So, as an example, like I said, the charges for Dark Soul regenerate 1 at a time. So if you use 1 at the beginning of the fight, you use Bloodlust at the beginning of the fight, so 30 seconds later you use another charge. That's your 2 charges down. Your 3rd charge comes back up, and then you use your 3rd charge on Demon Bolt. You get to your 4th Demon Bolt cycle, and you have to wait 20 seconds for Dark Soul to come up. During that point in time, if you have to bleed off some Fury, just go off into Fury, just go all into Metamorphosis, throw off some Touch of Chaoses. You can refresh Doom and just build some Fury. You never want to cast Demon Bolt without Dark Soul. You also don't want to, if you know a Trinket proc is coming, or if you know an unused Trinket is about to come off cooldown, you want to postpone about 8 to 12 seconds for that as well, because that's just going to make your damage that much better. You want to layer those cooldowns with abilities, with a hard-hitting ability like Demon Bolt, and so that's what you want to do there. That's the Demon Bolt rotation and its full priority. Kata is definitely a more fluid rotation. With Kata, it's really more of a priority system. It changes, Soulfire changes to where you actually want to save your Soulfire procs, to where you have around 6 or so, in my opinion. Anything above 6, you can use Soulfire to generate Fury. But the way that Kata works is once a minute, we can go ahead and spec over into Kata. I'm a combat. Let me get out of combat. There we go. Spec into Cata. And every once a minute, it comes off cooldown. So I don't use Glyph of Dark Soul in this. So what I'll do, the opener is just exactly the same, except that after you pre-pot, before you cast Terror Guard, you immediately Dark Soul Knowledge. That's the only difference. So you'll hit pre-pot, Dark Soul Knowledge, Terror Guard, go into your standard opening rotation. And then, of course, once you finish with your Hand of Gul'dan, Corruption, Shadowbolt, Hand of Gul'dan rotation, you go into Metamorphosis. Instead of casting Doom, you cast Cata, because Cata will apply Doom. Alright? Doom lasts 1 minute. Cata has a 1 minute cooldown. So Cata pretty much will always refresh your Doom whenever you're playing Cata. Other than that, you want to make sure that when you use Dark Soul, that you have the Fury to last the entire Dark Soul duration. So you want to make sure you have enough Fury to last 20 seconds. If you have enough Fury to last 20 seconds, your priority is Soulfire with Molten Core procs, Chaos Wave, and then Touch of Chaos. Like I said, Doom will be refreshed with Cataclysm. The only time you will not refresh Doom, the only time you will not use Cataclysm to refresh Doom is if you're holding Cataclysm for a ad phase. Then you will refresh Doom outside of Cataclysm. Otherwise, you use Cata to hit Doom. When you're in Casta form, you same thing. If you have more than 6 procs of Molten Core, use Soulfire. After 6, you let it be. Below 6, you let it be. Use Hand of Gul'dan the same way as you use it in Demon Bolt form. Always keep Corruption up. And then Shadow Bolt as a filler. Always use your Wrath Storm. Every time it comes off cooldown, go ahead and use it. Alright, that's pretty much the rotation in a nutshell. That's really honestly the entire spec. You want to make sure, of course, that you're pre-potting before the pulls. My Soulfire is at 3.72 and with haste and raid it's 3.5. So usually at 4 seconds I hit my pot, then I cast my Soulfire, and then I have it tied to my Dark Soul so that the next time I use a Dark Soul, it also uses a pot. So you want to make sure you're using 2 pots. Want to make sure that you're using Mastery Food. Want to make sure you're using 250 Greater Int Flasks. Do that, especially with Demon Bolt rotation, does a lot of damage. You do that, you'll be good to go. Anyway, this is my guide. Once again, I hope that it helps somebody and helps you learn how to play Demonology a little bit better. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments, definitely leave them below. If I've got anything wrong, definitely point that out so I can fix it myself and so the others can see that I got it wrong as well. Once again, thank you so much for watching and have a good day.